I can't get canceled by Catholicism. I'm a woman. I have no voice, therefore I can't blaspheme. Mwahaha. Also, I'm responsible for all evil because, Eve, damn it. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah.
I see what you did there.
Greetings and/or salutations, and welcome to Imbibe Cinema. The Imbibe Cinema podcast is brought to you by the Blue Whiskey Independent Film Festival, otherwise known as BWIF. We seek independent, character-driven films of all lengths, styles, and genres. To learn more, visit bwiff.com. I'm Jonathan C. Legat, along here with my co-hosts,
Michael Noens,
Tricia Legat,
and our special introduction guest,
Mary Shields.
Woo!
Introduction guest? What is an introduction? Is it?
You're an introduction guest.
No, like I'm
introducing a special guest.
Special
Did I not
guest?
say
No.
introducing our special guest?
No, you said introducing guest, and I'm wondering if that's because she's the first guest of our next season.
There you go.
I'm not that special.
Yes, you are. Stop it.
Just leave now.
Introducing our subpar guest. Watch. I'm telling you, Mary, you're gonna out podcast us on our own podcast, and all right.
It's okay.
It's fine. In this episode, we are going to be discussing the Irish independent film "The Commitments," which can be found on Redbox. While we are doing this podcast, we are drinking a cocktail called the Irish Whiskey Ginger. The recipe, as well as pictures, are available on the website, imbibecinema.com.
And as you can tell, it is an effective cocktail.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Mine, as Michael lovingly pointed out, we don't start the podcast until my first glass is empty.
And we chose a fancy whiskey because I wanted it to be fancy. So we've never had this whiskey before. I don't think it calls for this specific whiskey.
No, it does not. But
it's called Dublin Ink. And because the film takes place in Dublin, I thought, why not?
Yeah. That's fair.
Shout out to Benny's. Hopefully they'll give us free liquor.
Yes, free liquor or just $5 off, really.
Right, that'd be
Let's be
nice.
honest.
Discount.
And then, Mary, this is your first time with whiskey in general.
Yes, it is.
And?
It's great.
It is
Sláinte.
Sláinte, indeed. I would totally drink cheers and drink more, but unfortunately. So
Just wait for the ice to melt. And
lick it.
Don't worry, we'll have a break. You'll get another drink. Calm down.
Isn't it fancy ginger ale, too?
Yes.
It said premium
Premium.
ginger ale. So I got premium ginger
Is that
ale.
like top shelf ginger ale?
Top shelf ginger ale.
You know
I like
why?
the top shelf
It
ginger
was.
ale.
It was on the top shelf.
Oh,
and,
there you go. It's a
and
thing. Wow.
it's teeny tiny.
It is.
So to me, that always speaks is more expensive and fancy because, like, when you get fancy food, it's always teeny tiny and a
Oh,
giant
yes, a
plate.
French restaurant. Yeah.
Right.
All right, that's fair. All right, so Mary, you are Tricia's coffee buddy.
Yes.
And through numerous coffee imbibing, if you will, this particular topic came up as The Commitments.
Yes, it did.
And so this was your nod and your throw into the ring. So what is it about The Commitments that immediately grabbed you and that brought you in and made you go, this is an independent film that needs to be discussed on a podcast?
I just think it is a fantastic movie. And it was one of the first movies that I saw where afterwards I wanted the soundtrack. And I don't think that was always a thing. But for this movie, for sure it was. And I remember when I saw it, there were some cool kids in my school. They were forming a band called the Running with Scissors Band. Yeah.
Okay.
And that just seemed like, I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I immediately fell for Jimmy, just that sort of everything about him and forming a band and belonging. It just really spoke to me.
Now, the movie came out, what year?
91.
Correct.
91. And when did you see the movie, like shortly after it came out? Or
No, my mom, who's always kind of in the know of things, I think she saw the cast like interviewed on the Today Show or something, or I don't know, but she said, "You guys, we got to watch this movie," so we rented it, and she brought it home. Isn't that great?
That is.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mom.
Yeah, and then she bought us the cassette.
Okay, so she made your dream
Yes.
come true then.
This is a
Yes.
formative years film.
Yes, very much so. So I have her to thank. And you to thank for taking a chance on this movie, because it's really not... It could be a cult classic, but it's really not.
Well, no, they say
you know?
on Wikipedia, they say it is.
Oh, do they?
They do.
Oh,
They
well
say
then...
it has gotten a lot of, and maybe more in Ireland than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I will say that I after watching it or starting watching it, should I
Yes.
say, for this particular podcast, it occurred to me that I had seen this before. My brother, who went to University of Southern California for cinema arts studies, came home from college, was like, "You need to watch this movie," and
Okay.
had rented it himself.
He's
Okay.
a huge music person.
Yeah, he is
Yeah.
also
He
a
is-
huge
he is the
music
Jimmy
person,
of the
so-
family.
Yes.
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 So, I mean, this is not not my first foray into the Commitments, and I agree that, like, even watching it back then,
Yeah.
the absolute music is fantastic. It immediately makes you want to, like, toe tap and enjoy, and they do such a great job of performing it. So,
They do.
all right, now I have to also ask, because I'm about to throw a Scrabble word down here that Tricia had made fun of me for earlier, but she had also mentioned during all these coffee talks that she'd start mentioning a film that we were doing in the podcast, and you're like, "Oh, the composer for that," and all
God,
this.
yeah,
and-
she out-movied me.
you
out-movied me.
outmoved her. So I have to ask, you seem to be a cinephile. And that was the
He
Scrabble
just
word.
likes
that,
using the
There
word
you go.
file
Yeah.
because he thinks it's funny,
No,
like
no-
Disneyfile. He
Ever
thinks
called
it's
me
his
that before.
a cinephile?
Yes.
Well, I will state, somebody who knows the composer for, like
The Mission?
The Mission,
Mission.
is,
But
is
but
pretty,
the mission referenced in the holiday.
Correct.
Yes.
Which we also did a podcast on.
But I've also seen The Mission, which is another great movie.
Yes.
It's a different feel than
The little
Drastically different feel than this. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
But so you seem to be an avid movie lover.
Yes, I'm an avid music lover.
Okay.
And yes, my dad in particular could sing any song, any genre, and I grew up listening to, everything. Sam Cooke, The Doors, Chicago. I mean, just everywhere, all over the place. And so I think that's what draws me in.
Okay.
I do. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
See, so now you're a resource that we are going to abuse. We'll be like, Mary, we're going to call Mary
I
up.
love
Mary, you
music.
need to know what about the music because
I do.
and only when Michael doesn't know, because Michael does know most music, and he will listen to just.
I listen to scores all the time.
Yeah.
All 6 discs in my CD changer in the car. Yes, I have a CD changer still in the car.
Yeah.
So vintage.
And I just realized they're all from the 90s. Like just the other day. I was like, wow, that's pretty fun.
And now we bring it back to the Commitments.
It's just one of the many tangents
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
that our podcast brings.
Yeah.
But I feel like we should introduce the Commitments the way Jimmy does, where he says,
Oh yeah.
the Saviors of Soul, the hardest working band in the world. Yes, 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 the Commitments.
Yes.
Yes.
Now you had
Well
said,
done.
okay, so Jimmy likes to pretend that he's having an interview, that he's being
Constantly.
interviewed by
Yes.
somebody,
Terry.
in the
Yes.
bathroom or whatnot.
Well, Terry.
Yes, and you had said, and we had just watched. We talked about this. I don't know if Michael started recording, but was it the Dairy Girls? So they reference
Yes.
that. So that's on Netflix, and they
Yes.
reference. So it is a cult classic because there is a reference
Yes.
to it, or maybe just people in Ireland love to give interviews in the bathroom. I don't
Well,
know.
Dairy Girls takes place in Northern Ireland in the 90s,
Okay.
Yep.
I believe. So
Could be
I
about
think
the
it's
same.
not too far away from
Right.
where those girls grew up. And yes, Erin in one of the opening scenes, she's in her bathtub just like Jimmy, and she's pretending to be interviewed.
Dude, I used to do that when I was a
Oh,
kid.
for sure.
But I had to be in the mirror. So I
Oh,
could, like,
with the
look-
hairbrush.
You're so
Right, so
proud
you
of
could-
it,
As the
too,
microphone.
which I
Yeah.
love. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing in there? I'm being interviewed.
Yeah.
Like, leave
Right.
me alone.
See, where I would,
I
I
love
would
that.
be like,
Exactly what he
nothing,
said.
Just like Jimmy, too, yeah.
nothing. I have no aspirations whatsoever. I'm doing nothing. Shut up. Leave me alone. Where he's all like, no, I'm being interviewed. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I love the way that it's edited together, where at times you know, like you're seeing him interviewing himself, but there are points where I actually started to think, wait, is somebody else finally interviewing him? No, it's himself interviewing himself still, because we're like hanging on one scene before we move in to seeing him interviewing himself. It's I really enjoyed that throughout the whole thing.
But that level of confidence, he is so confident about music in general, what's good, what's bad, and he never wavers. And then when he's talking up the band to anyone, he is so good about talking up the band. And you're like, God, that's what most of us are missing, is that PR guy that's like, no, they're the band.
Well,
and then it doesn't, like, they'd self-destruct anyway.
Well, yeah. No, it was so self-evident what you're saying. Like in that scene where the news or the music reporter is there, and I think Outspan is standing there, and when's your next gig, Jimmy? You know, and Outspan's like, well, we don't schedule gigs. We just go where the people need it. I mean, Jimmy was like a spin artist there. Like he just was able to. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah,
like I want him to be like in your life and be, you know, your wingman.
Everybody knows him. They're like, hey, Jimmy, like, what's up, Jimmy? He knows where to get the black market shit. Like he knows. He knows. You know.
And it's he manages to. There's a reason he doesn't do anything in the band, is because he is constantly the thing that is around and making sure that they are continuing. And it's a shame, because I mean, even they approach him saying, like, we need you to run this because you're the guy, Jimmy. And it's just sad that they
and
we're not married to it.
No.
So
do you think we should drop the?
Here's like capitalize the middle one.
Yeah.
Or something?
Well, was there something also about like seeing it on a poster or something, like the way it was laid out?
Yeah, you're like
trying to sell it.
Get rid of the whole thing.
No.
But he's very specific. It has to be the something, because all the great bands in the '60s were the something.
Yes. How do you spell it? THE.
Yep.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And then his father is all like, if you need somebody, and the actor that plays his father,
we've seen
immediately recognize him. He's a character actor. You've seen him in tons of things. One of the Star Treks, he was
Colm Meaney.
I don't know which of the Star Treks was it.
He was in. Well, I think he was on.
He was the Irish.
He's definitely on Deep Space Nine.
Right.
I thought
he was the Irish engineer versus the Scottish engineer.
Yes.
But he sings a whole bit in the beginning where he's like
Colm
sings
Meaney.
Elvis.
Well, can we just take a minute to talk about the epic montage scene that is the auditions?
Yes.
Can we please talk about it?
Because when you
American
think
Idol?
it's over, it's not over.
It keeps
which
giving.
really is awesome. It's another shout out, I think, for the editing. Like, it's really well
That
crafted.
is.
Which is awesome, because the editing was nominated, I believe, for an Oscar that year.
Okay.
And the fact that it doesn't, like, there's a lot of tropes or formulas for a story about a band, right? Coming up, and this kind of, you think it's going to go a certain way, and then it surprises you. Like, the audition process is not like what you think it's going to be.
Right.
And then the ending isn't what you think it's going to be.
No.
So I love that it feels more real.
And I did like that the as you go through there are some really bad auditions, and then there are actually some really good auditions that are just not at all
Not
what
right
he wants,
brands.
what he's looking for.
Right.
So it kind of felt really real in that process.
And his family is so supportive.
Yes.
These people just show up at the door at all times.
But then how does he find each and every character? Because they all get introduced in their own unique, amazing
Well, the
way.
first two were part of and.
Yes.
The wedding band.
Derek and Outspan.
Yep.
Yes.
Interesting name.
Yeah.
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 It's an interesting name.
Derek and Outspan. Yeah. And then Dean comes next, the saxophone. Dean the nipple.
Oh yeah, and Dean Dean turns into, like, he starts. They get him on a diet of soul, because they all have to be on a diet of soul, right? And it's like this. He loses his virginity with the saxophone.
Yes.
In,
Well,
in
that's
a,
because
not,
the
not,
lips tells him how.
Right, but not in a like sexual way, not in an American Pie way, but like he gets taught how to use the saxophone and by thinking of it in a sexual manner, and he becomes this really great saxophone player from this shy guy that turns into all of a sudden like now he's into jazz and he's got his own thing, and they're like, this is not that.
No.
Shut up. Stop it.
Stop doing that jazz.
Yeah, but he's always sporting the bolo tie.
Yes.
I love the bolo tie and the mullet. He's committed to both of those. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, gonna improvise now, and they're like, no, that's jazz. Stop it.
And then the lead singer, is that later?
Oh,
Because I
So
know
he
we meet
sees-
him and then we
Yeah.
come back, right?
At the wedding
At the
again.
wedding.
Right.
He sees him at the wedding, Deco. And he's
Declan.
yeah.
But he's Deco.
just a prick from the start. You
Yes.
know? And you just get foreshadowing of that. He just systematically just kind of pisses off every other member of the band.
Right, and we
Yep.
all know that person. We've all worked with that
Yes.
person, and I find it very interesting that as talented as he is, and they all accept that he's very talented. That and it's not easy. Like they show how many songs you have to sing and how often like you have to sing and all that work for your voice, and yet like nobody is ever fooled or seduced by his talent. Everybody in the band doesn't like him.
Yeah,
Like,
they all know he's
nobody has
arrogant.
ever liked him.
Well, you mentioned how he says he wants to put the band on a diet of soul.
Yeah,
And I wrote this down because I thought it was great. Do you remember what he says?
not
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
do remember it's on the train.
He's
It's
on the train.
It's a
He
pep
says
talk.
James Brown for the growls, Otis Redding for the moans, Smokey Robinson for the whines, and Aretha for the whole lot put together.
Yep.
I thought that was a great line.
Well, and he talks about how music, there's so many different kinds of music, but soul music takes you to a higher level.
Oh, yeah.
That it can sound like it's a simple story or a simple idea, but it is so profound that it moves you
Yeah.
so intensely. And then how they're all like confused by James Brown, like he got hurt. Is
Yeah.
he going to come back up? Oh, are they walking him off stage?
Part of the show. No,
Like,
no, it's part
no.
of- No, I think they also specifically reference that it is the working man's music, and that is why it is necessary in Dublin at that time.
And that
is-
northern Dublin specifically
Yes.
is that area. And you see it in the background. You see the way the buildings are, how many dogs and children are running wild, like the burned
Yep,
out
on
car.
burnt, yep.
Yes. Yes.
And you realize, okay, yeah. And then they have, not to be stereotypical, they have a lot of children. And then they have the twins, and they're kind of creepy because they talk at the same
At the
time.
same time,
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah.
It's funny, they have Elvis's picture above the Pope's.
Right.
Did you notice
Yes.
that?
Right,
And
yes. Elvis
Elvis
is-
is God.
Yes, Elvis and the father is very
Oh, yes.
passionate about Elvis.
Yes.
You don't disrespect Elvis in
No.
his house,
No.
at all. But yeah, I love that. On the wall, there's like, is it the Pope or is it Jesus and then Elvis?
It could be. I
Yeah.
think it was the Pope. And then Joey, that character, Joey the Lips Fagan, he's
Yep.
sort of weirdly religious. There's a weird sort of
Yeah.
spiritual
He's like a Buddhist.
vibe, right?
What's the line that he says? Like that was one that like jumped
Oh,
out at me
God
right
sent
away.
me.
Yeah,
The Lord
God
sent
sent me.
me.
The Lord sent me.
The
Yeah,
Lord
yeah,
blows my trumpet.
Yeah.
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 See where that
I was
only
like,
takes.
what?
He's like,
Yeah.
actually, the priest down in this area, like he told me that you were looking, but then that means God sent me.
Yes.
Yeah.
What doesn't the dad say something funny like, "What did Evil Knievel want?"
Yes, yes,
rolls up
because
and
he has a
Jimmy
motorcycle.
says, "God sent him," and then the dad says, "On a effing Suzuki."
Yeah. Yeah, no, see,
Yeah.
his character, for some odd reason, and this is going to be a weird segue, so follow me for a second, but reminds me of the Irishman from Braveheart,
Okay.
in the sense that, like, he has that whole line where they're about to go into battle, and he goes, the Lord tells me, the Lord sent me, but he tells me I'm going to be all right. The two of you, though, he's pretty sure you're fecked.
Yeah, it's a strange pep talk too.
Yeah, I know, right? But all right, so let's trip back to the music here, because the soul was the soul of this film as well. I mean, the band's ability to play the music, to really bring the emphasis of this for a bunch of white kids from Dublin, is amazing. because they do crush it after the montage of them tripping all over themselves. But, I mean, it is amazing watching them watch and bring it to life.
Well, and that's another montage sequence, right? Is them learning how to be a band together and how to work together, and in an interesting atmosphere, because I think they're like above a bar, and it's someplace that the owner is out of town.
Yes,
so
it's
they
a
can
snooker.
Easy for you to say.
No, it is. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's billiards, but they call it snooker.
Yes.
No, but I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a great montage, and that's where they start developing the characters, right? Because they show each character. Billy's like drumming while he's on his blacksmith, job. Derek's in the meat packing, he's with the guitar.
Yeah, they're all bringing it to work.
Correct. And so you can kind of get a glimpse of each character that way.
Right, and they're like life outside of the music.
Yes.
But then also to this, you see the interesting relationship the men folk have to the women, because there are the commitmentettes, the three of them. And these girls, it's interesting how they interact with each other and how they interact with members of the band, and how everybody ends up with Jimmy. Not Jimmy, sorry. Everybody secretly has a crush on Jimmy.
Yes.
Some more than others, but
Joey the Lips.
Yeah, Joey the Lips. The Lips is like he sleeps with everyone.
But Jimmy, that was a real shrewd move to get those girls. To get those girls. They could sing, but it was also they were
easy
the
on
sex
the
appeal.
eyes,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was again showing how brilliant of a manager he really was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Joey the Lips is like much older than everyone else.
Yes.
He helps Jimmy quite a bit, I
is.
think. He really does give him guidance.
Yeah. He's
And even like
the
when,
mentor character.
when Jimmy loses it on him, he's still super calm, and it's like he's a prophet throughout the entire
He can see the
piece.
big picture, right? Because
Yeah.
he's been a member of, supposedly, he's been a member of these other bands, so he can see what it's supposed to be.
Right. Like they even
Yeah.
reference like the Beatles. There's
Yeah.
there's a trumpet in one song, and I can't think of it off the top of my head all of a sudden, which is really sad. But it's a very famous trumpet, and they're like, "Oh no, that was Joey." And then also, he references he played with B.B. King, as well as
Is it Miles Davis.
Miles
Yep.
Davis. Yeah.
I mean, he's played with all the greats, which is why.
Right.
he's
And then
played with
who's
them
the
all, but
who's
he's
the
never
famous
been-
person that comes to town?
Wilson Pickett.
Pickett.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who actually did the music for the film?
It's funny.
Why are we laughing? What do I not understand?
No, because it's so meta.
It is the meta of it.
Yeah,
You-
because
you
you, don't
write-
see,
you
you
write
never
yourself-
see him.
you get yourself written into your
the-
own-
Correct.
Right, it's a
Okay.
little pat on the shoulder there. But at the same time, you don't see him ever. You
Correct.
hear he's talked about in
Yeah.
his when his limo shows up. The driver talks to him, but you don't ever see him.
Correct.
Do you think Joey really talks to Wilson Pickett when he goes into that hotel?
That's one of those mysteries where you're
It
like,
really
I
is.
don't know.
I know.
But then the guy shows up. I mean, he's late, but then that's
does.
very musician-esque,
That's fair.
right? So the fact that he actually showed up, it's like, was it because everybody told him? Was it because of
The advertisements, because
Yeah.
he did pre-advertise that Wilson
Right.
Pickett would be there.
right?
Well, and Jimmy, again, in his brilliant managerial role, he reached out to all of those different newspapers,
Yep.
media outlets,
Right.
and got the
Right.
got the
So you
story
figure
going.
like they would go to Pickett's people and be like, "Are you going to?" And so he might have gotten curious on his own. But then you think, okay, well maybe Joey's like really real. But then at the end, his mom, which we've discussed, is very
Grey Gardens.
Yes.
Meets. What was it?
Very baby
Baby Jane.
Baby Jane, yeah. Just a little, there's not everybody, she's not all there. She's a nice lady, but something's missing.
Yeah.
And she says at the end that he's touring with somebody that's been dead for years.
Yes.
And so you're like,
What?
so wait.
It leaves you wondering
Yeah.
for sure.
Hold on a few more moments while we pour some more to imbibe after this. I don't know.
That was like
that was the
a
weirdest
puzzle of.
It was all the words jumbled. We're going to take a few moments to fill our glasses, so get ready to imbibe more after this. The Blue Whiskey Independent Film Festival exhibits short and feature-length motion pictures that utilize story elements in a new and exciting way. Our official selections are a carefully assembled blend of imaginative, sophisticated, and full-bodied stories. This is what our name represents. With audiences expect to experience character-driven independent cinema that is fueled by the filmmaker's passion for the art of visual storytelling. Filmmakers can expect an intimate festival experience where their personal story is valued as much as the one projected on the big screen. You're listening to the Imbibe Cinema. I'm Jonathan C. Legat. I am here along with
Michael Noens?
Tricia Legat.
and special guest.
Mary Shields.
Is this your favorite episode so far? Want to hear more? Please subscribe or follow us on all of your favorite podcast providers to get the new episodes as soon as we release them. Rate and or leave us a review to help the show reach a larger audience. You can also follow Imbibe Cinema on Facebook.
Not the Twitters.
Not the Twitters.
You know what Jimmy would say? It's like we appear when we want to appear.
Yeah.
Where the
Correct.
podcast is called to
Yes.
be in that moment.
When somebody
that's
needs
where
to
we're
hear
gonna
our
be.
podcast, that's
There
where
you go.
we will be.
There you go. Let's stick with that.
Yeah.
I think there's in terms of the movie, I feel like there's a clear delineation of where you can start seeing things go bad for the commitments. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
So, like the beginning of the end. And
Yes.
I don't know what all you think is that point, or what do you think that point is for
I
you?
do think there's
Yeah.
like, if you have to separate certain things, compartmentalize, and Jimmy does so. Like he treats the band like they are the band, and it's not personal; it's professional. Where Joey is all like, I feel the music and God and everything, and I'm very spiritual, but I'm also going to sleep with everybody, and that's part of one of the
Everybody.
one of the destructive forces. Is he didn't keep it professional.
Right. I mean, I made a note. Is collaborating with Joey a good thing or a bad thing? You know, I
Yeah.
felt like it could have been both.
And is he
but-
that guy in every band that he's in?
Well,
Where he
and
that's
comes
maybe
in
why
and-
he's gone through
he's
so many.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was going to say Joey. I feel
Yeah.
like Joey was
100%.
I can't pinpoint the exact moment,
Yes.
so I was just going to go with by the moment that Joey is in the band is probably where things start going.
But if
down.
it wasn't for Joey,
really
it
early.
would
I
have
know,
been
I know.
Deco.
Right.
Deco would have. He's
Oh.
a time bomb going off because his ego is getting bigger and bigger.
Correct.
yeah,
Or
Yeah.
it's jazz guy, which I'm
Well, the
liking on.
foreshadowing was with the first drummer leaving because of Deco.
Yeah.
Yes.
So already
Right.
you have this like you
Yeah.
know, and then I feel like when Deco talks to the piano player about his offer or whatever, and that just starts this cascade of chaos. Of
Yeah.
Like, you remember that part?
Right.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just yeah. And
No.
yes, I have the jazz haircut is also a problematic point.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
it's like just when they're about to take it up to the next level.
Yes.
Just when they're about to get recognized and get that's when they all start to like it starts to fall
The
apart.
fray.
And that's
Well, they-
what's so
like-
tragic.
But it's so common.
And
You
they,
would
like-
think.
Correct.
There's so many people
yeah.
who end up like just that close to they could have gone on to have this
And they've
great
got the
career.
talent. They've
They're
got
so
the-
talented,
you know.
and it all just it's like so many people get there. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. Mike.
no, actually, I was interrupting you. Apologies.
Yeah, it's fine.
Moo.
Interrupting cow.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for following me on that one.
But here I'm like, move over, butter. That's what my brain
That
does.
is. But yes, no, I 100% agree that it is Joey specifically sleeping, not necessarily with the first of the commitment-ettes, but I think specifically once he sleeps with the second, that it really, because, Joey's nature shows itself for what it is, and while he is, I think, one of the driving forces as to why they are rising so quickly, he is very good at what he does, but he has also done this before. He's been with professional bands, supposedly. And so it's his nature, unfortunately, that I think. Well, I mean, it's really all of them, but that is the quintessential moment. Quintessent?
Yeah.
Quintessential? There we go.
And then,
There
of
it
course,
is.
the girls all take it out on each other. And
Correct.
Not Joey.
Not the man.
Right.
Doesn't
who
make
did
any
it.
sense.
Right.
Nope. Yep.
And Joey himself is just this sort of picture of what life is like once you've had your fame and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Like a has-been, just use like an overused term, but he's kind of a...
Right.
Yeah.
And
He's
just,
over the hill.
Yeah.
And he's also not the lead of anything. You know,
No.
being a trumpet, he is the backup.
He
And so
reminds-
that's why he can go from band to band and never be noticed and never be known, because he's not the lead singer. He's not the lead guitarist. He's not the person who gets noticed all the time.
But also, he
He's-
seems like that surfer, that old surfer dude who's like, I'm searching for the next wave.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they play that last gig, you know, when they're waiting for Wilson Pickett and he
Yeah.
doesn't show, I just feel that is just so sad. You know, they go backstage and they're just like the absolute worst versions of themselves.
Correct.
Backstage. And, you know, you kind of get a glimpse during that gig of what they could have been, because they were really rocking that gig. They were doing really well. And then it just all falls apart. It's sad.
Yeah. But I
Well,
do love that Jimmy, you still see, like, Jimmy's not, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because he would be the one character that I'd be worried about. Like, he had all this confidence, and you feel like,
Yeah.
oh no. But he, you know.
Well, they do the 80s credit montage.
Where are they now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, again, because of the fact that the band broke up, he can date, or I mean, he ends up getting married.
I think they imply that he has a relationship with Natalie. I don't know. I don't like that part of the movie, because it's like, you know, they all just go about their lives, and but in a way, I guess that shows that Jimmy did succeed, right? Because
Yes.
he wanted soul, like you said earlier, lifts you up to a higher place. It shows you what things could be, and Jimmy gave them all that opportunity,
Right.
you
And
know, and they all
because-
had it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
at least
and-
once.
Right, and because like we have this idea that that kind of thing is only meaningful if it's sustainable, right?
Yeah.
You're only
Right.
if you're famous, only if you you make so much money and you can do that for so long. Is it worth anything? When if you have that great moment, then you can say, "Well, I did that."
Yes.
And because I did that, look what else I can do.
Yeah.
What other doors will open because I had this moment. And it shouldn't be something that you're like, well, it only means something. Because no, they all got to have that great moment where they came together and they did this beautiful thing. And yes, it exploded, but hopefully they've learned something.
That's kind of even like wrapped up in that moment with Joey, right? Where he says that's not what this is about.
Oh, he says, this is a great quote, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because, and I wrote this down, he says that the success of the band was irrelevant. You raised their expectations of life. You lifted their horizons. Sure, we could have been famous, but that would have been predictable. This way, it's poetry.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing that up, Michael. That was
That's
like
beautiful.
absolutely the best.
Yeah.
That was.
No, it's very Ted Lasso. You know, not there to win. No, but seriously, anything that can like improve, you know, humanity is always a good thing.
And then he quotes that song, the "We Skipped the Light Fandango," da 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he says, "What does that mean?" And he says, "Fuck if I know, Terry." So, and yes, he'll be all right. You can tell, like, Jimmy's going to be okay.
He's still giving interviews.
He's
Yeah.
still giving interviews.
It's gonna be fine.
Well, I mean, technically, all of them are fine as long as you take them out of the context
You know,
of the rest of the
And I
commitment.
think I think there's something about that we could take with us. That instead of like, you know, listening to certain kinds of music that are is not like, all right, I'm taking away from the music that we've talked about, but like the kind of like meditation stuff that we listen to calm down, or all the all the apps we have for mindfulness and all that to try and find our inner peace and stuff. I think we should all be interviewing. We should all be interviewing ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
Like 5 minutes a day, give yourself a nice interview.
Yeah.
About how amazing you are or what you've just done or any situation you've just been in and be like, this is how we got through it. That's an awesome thing to do. I think that would perk up anybody's day. Interview yourself, folks. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Ask yourself the tough questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the Rolling Stones.
And just
or the
see what
Beatles,
comes
which is it?
out. I mean,
Be honest with yourself.
yeah, the Beatles
Yes.
or the Rolling Stones.
At the bottom of the glass, there's always something profound. It's a good drink.
So critic reviews. There were 49 critic reviews for this movie. 44 of them are fresh. It has a 90%. And only 5 were rotten. And the 5, some of them are rotten really without any highlight to provide. I mean, you can read the full article, but we just kind of cover the snapshot. And so here's the one. This is from Film Freak Central.
I think the best part of this segment is the names of the people who comment.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
No.
Freak Central.
Lay it on us. Let's hear it.
Groundwork for the Full Monty School of Condescending Films about
Great film.
noble blue-collar Western Europeans who like their beer dark and their unemployment light.
Wow, that's very specific.
That is.
Yes.
I didn't know that was the genre.
Apparently.
The Full Monty. That's
School of
and Billy
Condescending
Elliot,
Films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Whoop.
The Full Monty School of Condescending Films.
Oh.
What?
It's so funny because it sounds condescending.
Yeah. That
That's
I totally
true.
forgot about the Full Monty. Oh. It's that same feel and
Full Monty came out, I thought, after.
Late 90s?
I think after the
Yeah,
commitment.
97.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
After.
interesting. They must have seen this and reviewed it
Late.
afterwards, because otherwise, why would you make that?
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you compare it to something that
About
came out
six-
years later?
6 years
Because
later.
they're
yeah.
an oracle.
I love the part. I'm just going to start talking about parts I love. Cause
Yeah, do it.
I hope
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come back to the whole audition scene where Jimmy says, "Who are your influences?" I love that.
Oh,
Who are your
yes.
influences,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I made like a whole list of everybody that Barry Manilow,
Yep.
Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, Wings,
Yes.
Bachman Turner Overdrive. Do we know this band? Who is
I mean, I've heard of
Bachman
it.
Turner
I
Overdrive?
feel like I've heard of it as
I've
well.
heard of it.
I'd
I
like to
can't-
know.
I can't place it.
Spandau Ballet. Love Spandau Ballet. Right?
okay.
You
I know what you're talking
know this. Am I right? Right. True. Soft Cell. Sinead O'Connor, Led Zeppelin, U2. And then when they
Yeah.
finally pick the drummer and he says his influence is Animal from the Muppets.
Yep.
That's the best
Sold.
one.
So,
And to be fair, who is a drummer should not be influenced by Animal.
Oh my God.
He's amazing.
I would say the Muppets version of Queen is one of my favorites.
Oh.
They're Bohemian Rhapsody.
The Muppets Christmas Carol is the only Christmas
Oh, it's
Carol.
the best Christmas Carol.
Forget it.
Amen. Well, we greatly appreciate all of our listeners for choosing this podcast and for supporting independent films. Keep an ear out for our next podcast and our next episodes.
our next podcast.
You heard me. Keep an ear out for our next episode. To check out our show notes or drop us a note, visit imbibecinema.com. I'm Jonathan C. Leggett, and thanks again for imbibing with us.
Ooh, time for the cheers.